Morning and a very warm welcome to the morning edition of Verdict 2014 on Rajya Sabha television. I'm your host Frank Pereira. Here are the latest headlines. Top leaders of the BJP and the Congress hit campaign trail in Jammu and Kashmir. BJP chief Amit Shah silent on Article 370, even as Home Minister Rajnath Singh says that the BJP's opponents are propping up Article 370 just to scare away voters. Jammu and Kashmir's incumbent Chief Minister Omar Abdullah files nomination papers, chooses Birwa as his constituency over family stronghold in Gandarbal. And in Jharkhand, Chief Minister Hemant Soren addresses a rally in Latehar, accuses BJP of failing to develop the backward state when in power. Well, top BJP leaders have stepped up the campaign in Jammu and Kashmir. Party chief Amit Shah hit the campaign trail in the valley and in Leh yesterday. Without raising the controversial issue of Article 370, the BJP chief called for complete integration of the state with the rest of the country. Home Minister Rajnath Singh struck a different chord. He blamed the BJP's political opponents for using the ghost of Article 370 to scare away the voters of Jammu and Kashmir.
In the face of criticism from opposition parties over its stand on Article 370 in Jammu and Kashmir, BJP continued its aggressive campaign in the valley on Thursday. Addressing multiple rallies in the state, BJP President Amit Shah said that his party can ensure Jammu and Kashmir's complete integration with the rest of India. His remark comes a day after Rajnath Singh's remark that the controversial article will not be a poll issue in the state.
जम्मू कश्मीर का ये चुनाव जम्मू कश्मीर को देश का एक अभिन्न अंग बनाने के लिए भी बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है, देश के साथ जुड़ाव के साथ भी बहुत।
Home Minister Rajnath Singh also racked up the issue of Article 370 in Leh, claiming it to be a hurdle to implement several central policies in the valley. BJP leaders also took on the National Conference and Congress for lack of development in the state. He assured thorough probe into the misuse of central funds to the valley.
कभी आर्टिकल 370 का आपको भय दिखाते हैं, कहते हैं बीजेपी आएगी, आर्टिकल 370 को रिपील कर देगी, और इस बार भी यही भय जम्मू कश्मीर और लद्दाख की जनता को दिखाया जा रहा है। बहनों भाइयों, यह असेंबली का चुनाव चल रहा है। असेंबली का चुनाव यदि होना चाहिए तो गुड गवर्नेंस के आधार पर होना चाहिए, डेवलपमेंट के मुद्दे पर होना चाहिए।
60 साल से जम्मू कश्मीर के अंदर ये दो परिवारों का जो शासन बना है, इसी के कारण जम्मू कश्मीर पे हमेशा सवालिया निशान लगा गया।
On Saturday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will launch campaign in the valley. He is expected to address a dozen rallies in yet another whirlwind campaign tour for the assembly polls. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, a day after he got back from a three-nation tour, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to kickstart his election campaign in poll-bound Jharkhand and Jammu and Kashmir. Modi will hit the campaign trail in Jharkhand today, addressing rallies at Daltonganj, Chandwa in Palamu district. Since Palamu lies in the Naxal belt, massive security arrangements have been made for the Prime Minister's rally. Hoping to replicate the success of Haryana and Maharashtra, Prime Minister Modi will be addressing a series of rallies in both Jharkhand and Jammu and Kashmir over the next 3 days. Both states go to the first phase of polls on the 25th of November. Meanwhile, Congress President Sonia Gandhi will launch her election campaign in Jammu and Kashmir today. She is scheduled to address rallies in Bandipora and Ramban. Sonia will be accompanied by Party General Secretary and State in Charge Ambika Soni and state leaders Ghulam Nabi Azad and Saifuddin Soz. The party is expecting workers from across the valley to attend the rallies, especially in Bandipora, which is considered a party stronghold. Joining me on the phone line is our correspondent Vishal Dahiya right now. Vishal, clearly, of course, the big guns have taken centre stage as far as Jammu and Kashmir is concerned. Today, Sonia Gandhi is expected to address a couple of rallies as well.
Well, yes, you're right. The star campaigners have finally hit the ground, albeit the Sonia Gandhi from the Congress side who is going to address two rallies in J&K, or the Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself, who is going to campaign for his party's candidate in Jharkhand. It's just few days left before the first phase of polling takes place, and these two, as well as other star campaigners, are now going to campaign extensively for these 5-phase polls in both Jammu Kashmir and Jharkhand. We've already seen a few other leaders from both parties, be it the BJP party president Amit Shah or the Home Minister Rajnath Singh, who was campaigning for the BJP's candidates in Jammu and Kashmir in the last few days, or the Congress's leader of opposition in Rajya Sabha, Ghulam Nabi Azad, who's been holding forth in Jammu for quite a few days now.
Vishal, as far as the BJP is concerned, the BJP seems to be staying clear from the issue of Article 370. We saw Amit Shah not bringing it up at all, and we saw Rajnath Singh, in fact, a couple of days ago saying that the opposition is bringing this issue up just to scare away the voters.
Well, yes, on Article 370, there seems to be a two-pronged strategy which is being adopted by the BJP's leadership, while the top leadership, that's the party president Amit Shah, as well as the Home Minister Rajnath Singh, have been making statements like the one you just said, or rather keeping mum on it. Other leaders, such as the party's chief of the campaign committee, that's Jitendra Singh, who is also a MOS PMO in the union cabinet out here, has been quite clear about his statements that there should be a rethink on Article 370, though there should be a debate on it, a concerted debate which should take place involving all stakeholders in the state. So obviously, it's not that the BJP has left behind the issue of Article 370, but yes, with the elections around the corner and polling just a few days away, the BJP's top leadership seems to be really cautious of how to tread this path, tread this path on Article 370.
All right, Vishal Daya, thank you so much for joining us there with all those details. Moving on now, today is the last date for filing of nominations for the third phase of polling in both Jammu and Kashmir and Jharkhand. That's to take place on the 9th of December. Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah filed his nomination from Birwa yesterday. This is the second assembly seat that he will contest in these elections. He is also contesting from Sonawar assembly segment. Incidentally, he has chosen not to contest from Gandarbal, a seat he represents currently. However, he rejected reports that he is avoiding his family bastion in the face of anti-incumbency against him. He also ruled out any effect of Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the state.
कश्मीर में तो अगर हम ये कहें कि मोदी फैक्टर है वो गलत है, लेकिन जम्मू में ज़रूर होगा। पता नहीं, शायद मुमकिन है कि लद्दाख के कुछ इलाकों में भी मोदी का एक फैक्टर रहेगा। कश्मीर में अभी तक तो नज़र नहीं आया, अब उनको आने दीजिए, यहाँ जलसा करने दीजिए, फिर देखते हैं।
Well, the BJP has launched an ambitious Mission 50+ in Jammu and Kashmir, and it is banking quite heavily on Muslim candidates who make up for 40% of its list. Among the 32 in the fray, 25 are from the Kashmir Valley. They want a reprieve from dynastic politics in the state, which is lagging on the development front. Here's more.
Post Lok Sabha polls and victories in 2 state assembly elections, BJP has launched its most ambitious project yet. The party is eyeing more than 50 seats in the 87-member assembly of Jammu and Kashmir, a state with Muslim majority, and it shows in its list of candidates. There has been a sharp rise in the number of Muslim candidates this time compared to previous elections. From 24 candidates in 2008 polls and 17 from the 2002 edition, BJP has fielded 32 Muslim candidates this time. One of the young faces of BJP in the Kashmir Valley is Hina Bhatt, the candidate for the Amira Kadal constituency. The dentist-turned-politician feels BJP will bring development and the much-needed end to the dynastic politics in the valley.
मेन अभी जो हमारा है एजेंडा वो रिहैबिलिटेशन है, गुड गवर्नेंस है, करप्शन को ख़त्म करना है, और बड़े सदियों से देखिए आप टूरिज़्म पे कुछ हुआ नहीं है आज तक, सो टूरिज़्म को बढ़ाना है, डेवलपमेंट हर हिसाब से चाहिए कश्मीर में।
The controversial issue of Article 370 seems to be on the back burner in these polls, but the party is not shying away from talking about the issue Kashmiris are sensitive about.
ये पता होते हुए कि आर्टिकल 370 से उनके वोट कट भी सकते हैं, तो लेकिन बड़ा अपफ्रंट होके हम कह रहे हैं कि नहीं, हम इस बात को उठाएंगे, हम डिस्कशन करेंगे। मतलब हम दोगलापन नहीं कर रहे हैं, अभी कुछ कह रहे हैं और सरकार में आने के बाद कुछ कर रहे हैं, तो आप उसको अप्रिशिएट करें। जो भी कह रहे हैं तो ओपनली कह रहे हैं।
BJP got over 15,000 votes in the valley for the first time in the recent Lok Sabha elections. From being a triangular contest then, a four-cornered battle now. After the split between Congress and the National Conference, BJP feels it would be able to make enough votes. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, Jharkhand Chief Minister Hemant Soren was on the campaign trail in Latehar on Thursday. After the split with the Congress, the JMM leader is looking for a second term in a state which has been under President's rule more often than not. Launching a sharp attack on his political opponents, Soren questioned BJP's contribution to Jharkhand during its 10-year stint. He claimed that the Saffron Party failed to develop the backward state, lagging majorly in development.
पूर्व के विधायकों ने क्या आपके लिए किया, ये आप बताएंगे। हमने आपके लिए क्या किया, वो हम बताएंगे। आज इस राज्य में जो 14 वर्षों से अलग राज्य के बाद जिस तरीके से सरकारें आई गई, इस पूरा राज्य को बहुत नुकसान हुआ।
Well, among the oldest and biggest election issues in Dhanbad industrial hub in Jharkhand is displacement of thousands of tribals here by the Damodar Valley Dam project. Due to this issue alone, a lot of others arise, amounting to the deprivation of basic facilities for the people. Complaints and protests have abounded down the decades, but to little avail. Here's a report.
Demonstrations in Dhanbad demanding a very basic right. You took away our land, at least give us the basics of a new life in return. Close to 3,700 families of the Dhanbad belt in Jharkhand were displaced by the Damodar Valley Corporation dam project in the 1950s. Elections have come and gone, but more than 60 years on, 15,000 people have still not got compensation. And many of them have now given up hope of anything happening this time either.
विधानसभा में इस बार वोट का बहिष्कार करेंगे आप लोग?
एकदम बहिष्कार कर देंगे।
नहीं दीजिएगा? नहीं
दीजिएंगे।
क्या कारण है?
कारण वही विस्थापित के लिए, व्यक्तिगत मांग के लिए हम लोगों को नेता कोई समर्थन नहीं दे रहा है।
हम लोगों का दुख और दर्द न सरकार सुनती है, न प्रशासन सुनती है, न मैनेजमेंट सुनती है। इसीलिए हम लोग इस बार ये कर रहे हैं कि जितना भी विस्थापित भाई और बंधु है, वोट का बहिष्कार करते हैं हम लोग।
Kishore Marandi was once a landowner. After he vacated his land to give way to the dam project, a road accident left him physically scarred for life. Yet he's kept up a legal fight. Social organizations like the Ghatwar Adivasi Mahasabha have taken up his cause. Legal notices have been sent out, letters sent for a CBI probe into the compensation issue and more, but there's been little movement.
38,000 एकड़ जमीन डीवीसी अधिग्रहण किया, 15,000 परिवार का जमीन अधिग्रहण किया, 340 गांव का जमीन अधिग्रहण किया, 5,000 घर अधिग्रहण किया। परमाणु स्वरूप सिंह पत्थर गांव जहां 1670 घर डैम में डूब गया, 80% आदिवासी हैं, एक को नियोजन नहीं मिली। और सौभाग्य है कि हमारे मुख्यमंत्री झारखंड के आदिवासी हैं और आदिवासियों को न्याय नहीं दिला पाए।
Officials of the Damodar Valley Corporation say all claims have been settled and those persisting are fraudulent.
हम लोगों ने कहा ठीक है, अगर आपका क्लेम बनता है तो आप मुझे कागज दिखाइए। तो इनका कोई कागज इनका पास है नहीं। हम लोग खुद अपने लोगों को लगा करके कागज, पुराने कागज को ढूंढने के लिए हम लोगों ने लोगों को भी लगाया, लेकिन कहीं ऐसा कुछ मिला नहीं है।
The compensation issue is just one of many that Dhanbad faces. Lack of power and education facilities and poor infrastructure have dogged the area for years, despite it contributing heavily to the state exchequer. They'll play heavily on voters' minds when they go to assembly polls on the 14th of December. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
That's it on this edition of Verdict 2014. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.